Well, hello out there in the Facebook world. You're probably wondering why we are a few minutes late right now. But we're waiting on Chris. He's getting an important report that we want to talk about with you. And thanks for joining us. This is Common Sense Commentary coming at you from Common Sense Institute's office. We do this once a month, last Friday of the month. Can't believe how quickly September has flown by. I'm sure you can all relate. But today we have some good information. Oh, Chris, you're joining us.
Are we live?
We're live.
We're live. Hello.
Well, we didn't want to be late for our followers, so. Joining me today, my name's Kristen Strom. I am President and CEO of Common Sense Institute. Joined by Chris, our Director of Policy and Research, and he wanted to go print a report quickly so he didn't screw up any numbers that we're going to share with you today.
A real behind-the-scenes look of
that's
Chris showing up late,
exactly.
Kristen on time. Perfect.
Usual business. So this has been kind of an interesting week. Did you check your mailbox this week?
I did. Actually, my wife yesterday, because I've been asking for it,
Yeah.
she actually said the blue book came, Chris. And
Yeah.
you're excited.
We've all been.
Yep, I got it yesterday.
So this might be the largest blue book I've ever gotten. And I've lived in Colorado my whole life, so I've seen some pretty big ones. We're going to have over 11 statewide ballot initiatives this fall,
Right.
which equated to a 137-page blue book. And that's some light reading, especially if you have kids or other things going on.
I need this as an audiobook. They need to make an audiobook.
Oh, that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we should send them an email.
We should tell Ledge Council, you guys need to get with it. Like, come on. It could be a podcast.
I would.
Audiobook.
Yeah. Just the blue book audiobook. The blue audiobook.
Okay. I mean, think of the cost too to print that.
Right. And send it to every Coloradan if you could just, stream it.
Well, talking about printing costs, we put together our own ballot guide. As I said, there are 11 initiatives. We examined 4, and the reason why we chose these 4 is because they had some pretty significant fiscal and economic impacts that we want to make sure voters and Coloradans know about before they cast their votes. And I thought that we'd kind of start there. This is the third a simple ballot guide. I can print you a hard copy if you email our info account. We'll mail you one. Don't want to waste that much paper though, so you can also download it on our website. We'll have to make an audible of our ballot guide. Look at what you just did.
I know. Our reports, now we're going to have audio reports.
I will say though, if you go to our website, commonsenseinstituteco.org, we have information in a multitude of platforms. So if you like doing the old-fashioned print and read it, if you like reading it on your screen, there's that option for you. We also have webinars that we've recorded on all of the issues that we'll cover in our ballot guide. We have a podcast.
I was going to say, yeah, I think we'll cover it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's available, you can pull up your iPhone, go to the Apple Podcatcher platform and download the Common Sense Digest. They're excellent. They're hosted by our board chairman, Earl Wright, who does a fabulous job. Did a deep dive on a lot of these issues too. So lots of ways for you to engage, learn about these issues because they're complex. And perhaps the one that I think is the most complex that's on the ballot, I want to talk to you about today. Proposition 118, which is the Paid Family and Medical Leave Initiative. Voters will be voting on it. I know that this has been attempted several times in the last...
I think it's like 5 or 6 straight years it's been attempted in the legislature. So this is the first time.
And wait, has it just all failed? Or?
It's all, yeah. There's been 5, possibly 6 unsuccessful attempts at passing something at the legislature. So this is the first time voters will have the direct chance and opportunity to vote directly on a question about establishing a statewide paid leave insurance program.
So tell us, go through the details, because it is complex. There's a lot of different things that you need to know. As employees, if you're employed, you would be paying into this program. So this is coming out of your paycheck. You need to know about it.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it earlier. You saw, we've released our ballot guide. Probably people listening, you've started to hear ads on the airwaves. I think you mentioned what you've seen. How many commercials did you see
I
on
was
118?
going to say that. So last night, I have twin 4-year-olds, and I'm watching Disney Junior or something. In a half hour that
You
we
were
were
watching. Your
yeah,
twins
I was.
were watching the news.
I was watching
and you
it.
were watching
Right.
Disney Junior.
And in that 30 minutes that I was in front of the TV with them, I saw a advertisement for Yes on Proposition 118 4 times,
Wow. Yeah.
which I really haven't seen too much else out there in terms of the ballot initiative. So I was kind of shocked that it was that heavy of a media buy this soon. But you know, are there some mistruths in that ad? Truths? That's what I want to get to with you.
Yeah.
You have the report in front of you, which is also the size of the blue book. We have one pagers that you can read too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
So what is it? What does it mean?
Yeah.
Tell everybody high level. What does it do?
Yeah, and to reiterate, the ads are out, the blue book is out, but really our research was focused on the area that we've talked about, for a couple of years now, largely last year as well, is what is the cost? But I'll get to that. The question about Proposition 118 is regarding whether or not to establish a statewide paid leave benefit insurance program.
So this is a government-run program.
This would be a government-run, government-administered program that Coloradans, eligible Coloradans, which would be virtually all Coloradans that have a job, full-time, part-time, would pay into this insurance program, the state program, through a payroll premium, a wage-based tax, and then would be eligible to take paid leave for what are called sort of different qualifying events. So you pay into the program, both employees, all employees, and most employers pay
And it's split 50-50.
For
Employee
most-
pays 50, employer pays 50.
Yeah, so all employees pay 50% of the premium, and most employers pay the other 50% of the
Got it.
premium. There's some exemptions for small businesses and local government. And then if you want to take leave, related to what's generally categorized as family-related leave, so that's related to bonding with related to childbirth, related to caregiving for a family member, but it also covers personal injury. So what people might be familiar with regarding short-term disability. So it really covers, again, these two concepts of family leave and short-term disability. So everybody pays, and then if you want to take the leave, you apply to the state.
Oh, so you don't
Yeah.
apply with your employer, you apply to the state, and then the state handles it with your employer?
Yeah, this is one of the complexities that I think employers and managers are trying to think through and will have to work through. But correct, this would make the relationship between when to take leave, how to qualify for leave between the employee and the state, and then the state or a combination of the employee would notify the employer essentially if that leave was confirmed or approved or not.
And so a few other nuances too that I just want to make sure everybody knows. It's up to 12 weeks, 16 weeks in some circumstances. You don't have to take the leave consecutive days, right?
Yep.
You can take it throughout the year.
Into
And-
hour chunks.
And the
Yeah.
premium rate, which is like the tax that's paid out of your paycheck, starts at 0.9% shared between the employee and employer. So, what happens to you?
Yeah.
I'm your employer.
Yeah.
So we have a small company.
Yeah, we have fewer than 10 employees.
So we're out, right?
Well, we all have to pay. So
Oh.
all of us would pay.
So you're paying in even though we
That's right.
are out. Oh, okay.
So the employer, as CSI, would not have to pay their share of the premium because again we fit the criteria for a business, a smaller size business that doesn't have to contribute. But every employee would have to pay 50% of the premium rate, and if
Even
I
if
wanted
your
to take
company's
leave,
not in, you're a small company, you're still paying into this program.
Correct. Again, those that are self-employed can opt in. So if you're
If you wanna be
someone,
in.
but if you are self-employed yourself, but you have employees, and you have more than 10 employees, then you have to contribute as an employer. And local government can also opt out. So
Okay.
local governments can opt out. There's some ways that employees of local government can opt back in. It gets a little complex, but the state government is automatically enrolled in this and part of this, and so the state has a cost associated with this. And I think it's important for people to realize, if you don't have the benefit currently, let's say you don't have an explicit paid leave benefit currently,
Because
You
most
may-
people have, like, as part of their compensation package, you have so many days off,
correct.
right? And you're not paying for those extra those days off. It's not like an extra cost coming out of your paycheck, right?
Right.
That's part of your benefit program.
Correct.
So this would change things, kind of, that instead of that benefit package that you might have been given as an employee, you're now gonna have to pay extra for that benefit.
Yeah.
that right?
Well, it'll get complex, and employers are gonna have to determine if you would offer the same level of benefits, if you now just go with the state plan, if you
But
get additional
employers
benefits.
will have to meet the state plan level.
And if they,
At least.
and employees will have to pay into this regardless.
So
Yeah.
I wanna stop right there,
Okay.
just because I wanna make sure we get into the key findings of this report, because they're so important. The fiscal implications for the state, for an individual, for a family, are important to understand. And the cool thing about Common Sense Institute is we have a team of great researchers and economists, and I wanna give a shout out to Chris and Eric Guillaume, who's on our team, who, when this initiative came forward, we could have done some modeling. They actually built a model for this proposal exactly, which I don't think had been done previously at the state level or by any group. And that model is available for download on our website. If you wanted to calculate how much it would cost you as an individual or as an employer, you
Yep.
can download it on our website. Fully transparent. It's there for everybody to use.
Yep.
And we hope that you use it. So it's on our homepage now. Check that out. Let's dive into the key findings now.
Okay.
First thing I want you to tell us about is, how does this program compare to other states that have implemented it? I know that California, New Jersey, Rhode Island already have state-run paid leave programs.
Yeah.
How does Colorado stack up
Yeah.
for this proposal?
Yeah, well, compared to existing programs, from a benefit standpoint, this would provide the highest level of benefits of any program in the country that's been implemented.
What does that mean?
Yeah, that means that if you take leave, there are, again, several measurements of benefit, that in terms of the length of leave, in terms of the definitions that qualify for leave, the definitions of family and how expansive that is, and then one in particular, which is the wage replacement rate. So the idea is, when you take the benefit, when you take leave, how much of your income, how much of your wage gets replaced while you're taking the leave. And in other states, that scale at which your wages were replaced started at 55% or 60%. And in the case of California, as of last year, they increased it to 70%.
So the assumption to me would be, the lower the wage replacement, the less likely an individual would be to take the leave, because they're not getting their full paycheck, right? They're
Yeah.
only getting a percentage of it, so they might not take the leave if they need the money.
Correct. Well, and so the Proposition 118 and what's being proposed in Colorado would start at a 90% wage replacement. So you can see that, again, starting off, the wage replacement rate is a little bit higher,
So, like,
much higher than these other states.
30% higher.
20
than
to
these other-
30%, that's right,
Wow.
yeah, right.
Wow. And to me, then you have to look at these other programs, and I want to get into the solvency issue and touch on that, because it's, again, so important. In Colorado, we've dealt with PARA being an unfunded liability. We have all of these other programs that taxpayers in the state have had to bail out at some point because of solvency issues. And maybe this is just my soapbox, but that's something that I'm super concerned about as a taxpayer, and somebody looking at this program. If the wage replacement's at 90%, I'm gonna assume way more people are gonna take that benefit compared to New Jersey, California, Rhode Island. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the expectation. And I think we've seen that in other states. Reports that have been provided to the state and various task forces related to family leave have indicated that over time, as the program gained in popularity, as benefits are may slightly increase, the utilization, the number of people that take leave will only increase. Absolutely. And the solvency question, the reason we talk about the solvency and you bring up solvency is, as you said, the premium starts at 0.9% of wages. But in the proposition, they've said that the premium cannot go above 1.2% of wages. So they've established a cap.
Won't go above 1.2% of wages taken out of your paycheck.
That's right. So they've established this cap. And I should say that there's it's 1.2% of wages up to the Social Security contribution
Right, that's
limit.
important.
So it's not all wages, just up to the Social Security contribution limit. But by putting in a cap of 1.2% and making no allowance for the adjustment of benefits, so if the utilization, if it gains popularity, people like it, they take more and more people take leave, the cost, the premium to cover those benefits would have to go up. And at some point, that 1.2% cap is not high enough. That 1.2% premium is not high enough to cover the benefit payments. And at that point,
like what rate though? At like how many people take, what percent, what claims rate are we talking about where we start to kind of run into issues?
so it'll adjust slightly year to year, but the level of utilization, sort of an equivalent level of utilization in a range of about 7.5% claims rate. So 7.5% of the people who are eligible to take leave make a claim. So that's 7.5% claims rate, and the average length of leave is about 10.2 weeks. So this, we created a couple, a range of potential outcomes in our modeling and in our report, and that falls somewhere between our middle scenario and our high scenario. Maybe just a point that I think is important for people to realize that we didn't just put these ranges out there. This was based upon some experts that have looked at programs. We also looked at
where did you get that information?
Yeah, primarily we looked at information that was provided to the 2019 Colorado Family Leave Task Force.
Because they've been having people look at this issue now that hasn't failed at the legislative level a few times.
Right.
What's the best solution?
Right, and one of the recommendations, or one of the reports provided, looked at this question of utilization, and in their recommendation, in their findings, they suggested that Colorado would experience a utilization rates of about 5 to 7%
And this was
claims
the
rate.
DU School of Social Work report, which
Correct.
is also on our website. It's linked. Good report that they provided to the task force, and we used as a basis for a lot of the assumptions when running scenarios. I'm glad that you have your notes in front of you so you don't screw up things, Chris. So back
Don't
to
wanna
that
misquote
number.
it on
So like
live.
7.5% of the people take the benefit for about 10 weeks. We're running into solvency issues. This program might not have enough money to then actually pay out the benefits if more people try and take it. So 100 people more, 1,000 people more try and take the benefit for a little bit longer. They might not even get paid out, and they've been paying in.
Yeah.
Or what happens? What happens?
Well, it's there's a lot of potential permutations. However, this is an kind of overlaps a little bit with our work on Proposition 117, another issue in your 137. Yes.
In our ballot guide.
Yes,
so.
in the ballot guide. This would be a new enterprise because this is technically a fee, not a tax.
Okay.
Which again, revert to discussion on Prop 117 to sort of understand some of the distinction there. But as an enterprise, so this new agency that would administer and manage the paid leave program, as an enterprise, they would have the ability to issue revenue bonds, so they could actually go issue debt to cover some short-term solvency issues. But if the rate of utilization is sustained at a level that's higher than what we talk about here, there's no way you could issue debt on a continuing basis to cover your costs. So
the legislature will probably have to do something.
they would have to do something, and
Raise the premium cap, so
Correct.
instead of, you paying, I don't know, as somebody who makes $50,000 a year, I'm just gonna go with an average salary. You have this in front of you, and I'm probably gonna screw it up.
I'm gonna go to it.
But,
Oh, you're gonna quote it? Let's see.
maybe,
I'll
let's
call you
see.
out. All right. Let's
Okay,
see.
now I'm gonna have to cheat.
Higher number.
It's probably what, 300, am I right? 200-ish a
Two-
year you're paying into this. That will raise, right? I mean, that will have to then increase probably if we run into those solvency issues, so.
Yeah. So for our range of impacts suggested that our mid-range, the annual premium for someone making $50,000 a year would be $280 a
Oh,
year.
300, I was actually.
Yeah, you were in the ball. Yeah, yeah. Good.
Should be confident in my answers. Okay, $300. So that would go up then likely. But what is $300 really? I mean, okay, people are like, oh, $300, that might be, worth it. What does that mean? To me, I work off of existing taxes. So what would that really mean in terms of my individual income tax? Is that an increase? I mean, what's the percent increase in that?
Yeah, so at our mid-range scenario, the premium is 1.12.
Mm-hmm.
So relative to the state's current flat tax of 4.63%, that's an effective 12% increase
Wow.
in your state income taxes, effectively.
Okay.
Uh,
What about on the company side, the corporate side?
Yeah, so
Companies need to be concerned about this. Colorado, we're #1 economy. We're doing great. We're going to recover from COVID a lot faster than everybody because of the diverse economy that we have. But as we're looking to recruit new companies here, this probably is something that they're going to look at in terms of just a cost.
certainly.
What does this do to kind of, if you compare the corporate income tax increase?
Yeah, certainly. So in 2025, the first year that the premium can increase, our modeling suggested that in our mid-range scenario, you would actually need to see the premium would need to rise above the 1.2%, and that 1 year due to some of the early lack of funding. But it would amount to about a 200% increase in the existing corporate income tax revenue
Wow.
across the state. So,
Wow.
as we talk about, the total corporate income tax collection in Colorado in 2019 was just under $700 million. So as a $1.3 billion program or more, as some of our modeling suggests, the employer share is significantly larger or nearly doubles or triples the state's current corporate income tax revenue collections effectively.
Wow.
Again, just to give you a sense of the scale of how much this
$1 billion program.
yeah, or more,
Wow.
likely more. Yeah.
So we don't have too much time left. There's something that I thought that you guys did that was super helpful to somebody like me that probably is not going to read a full report. I just need to get some high level information. Real world examples are always helpful to me. You took 2 examples, a restaurant in Colorado,
Yeah.
to make you find this, and a biotech company that is finding the cure for COVID that we made. These are hypothetical companies, but they're going to find it, this company. So you took 2 different companies just to look and analyze what would the direct cost be to those 2 companies. Restaurants right now, they're struggling. We need to do everything we can to help them. And I know that they're operating on really thin margins as it is. What would this do to a restaurant in Colorado?
Well, to pick on the two companies that I think you articulated really well. I think this highlights really the challenge of paid leave benefits in general and offering benefits in general, but really the challenges of a statewide one-size-fits-all program.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the point here is, aside from starting a company that's solving COVID in Colorado, that was part of the mission of,
Right.
showing us. But the real, I think, effort was to say a one-size-fits-all approach has different impacts, and that shouldn't necessarily shock anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But the point being that it's not just the direct costs, it's largely these indirect costs that different companies face, particularly the restaurant, which...
So tell us about it.
Yeah, when someone so if we look at that restaurant that has a relatively low margin, restaurants generally have relatively low margins, let's say a margin of 3%, if someone takes leave, they have to replace that person. So either there's new hiring, there's some transition costs.
Somebody has to cook the food and serve it, right?
That's right. They can't, right, if someone takes leave, if I take leave for a couple days,
Yeah,
I
I
know
don't
you
need to
gave us some
replace
props.
you.
You probably don't need to replace me for a couple days. Exactly. We'll survive. Don't want to admit that on camera.
Yeah.
But
It's on record.
it's on record. But the reality is, a lot of companies that are zero operations, that they actually need someone there. So if someone takes leave, they have to replace them.
Yep.
Um,
Added costs, probably training and
Right,
which
so-
we didn't account for, but
Correct. That additional, exactly. But ultimately, that eats disproportionately into their margin, reduces their margin by around 3 to 4%. On the other hand, you have this biotech company, professional service company, a healthier, larger margin. It costs their net costs from an employee standpoint. If you assume they need to replace 50% of employees who are taking leave, not the full 100%, the net cost is about $545 per person, and it decreases their margin by about 2%. So different
so it
companies.
almost sounds like to me that this disproportionately impacts smaller companies to some extent that have to replace employees.
Completely.
Yeah.
And I think I misquoted. I even have it in front of me. And I got the number wrong. See, but that
Gotta
restaurant,
check 'em.
that restaurant that we talked about, the margin would go down by 10%.
Yeah.
So that's $1 in $10 that they would normally have as a margin at the end of the year for the owner, or maybe that is being put back into the business. Would be reduced compared to this other company that maybe has different indirect costs and it's only a 2% hit on their margin. Again, the calculator that you mentioned available for download on the website, you can test some of these and play around with these alternatives and see how it might impact your company at a high level. So,
Or you as an individual. I
Absolutely.
think that's important too. I've done the math and seen how it will impact me and my husband and our family household income, and I think that's something voters need to look at and consider. That's all for today. Next time, be on time. Although I guess I could just do it myself. It wouldn't be as fun. Join us next month, last Friday of the month, for Common Sense Commentary. Really appreciated you joining us. Thanks.
thank you.